Hello and welcome to my presentation of Polygonal Sans, a digital typeface for those bored of bitmap. This is my project for typography with Stephen Schaff. I'll just be going over my modular based typeface in this presentation. So as far as audience target and designer targets that I'm trying to hit with this typeface, I'm looking to hit a wide range of ages, 25 to 65-year-olds. The older half of that demographic is going to be very familiar with Bitmap, a block-based digital typeface that was developed decades ago. I just wanted to create kind of a different take on Bitmap and see if I could use a different modular shape with different sides to it. In this case, I ended up using a hexagon. But back to the targets. For designers, we'll be wanting to target people who are working in a digital space and they need things to look more geometric or less impacted by human touch and movements. So thinking less serif type typefaces and more along the lines of digital mediums. So in compiling mood boards for this project, I had an original focus on kind of a post-apocalyptic theme. I really liked the fonts from video games such as Fallout, which kind of have a heavy bitmap influence on them. So I explored a couple of different kind of bitmap typefaces with different shapes. And then I eventually found some of these type of hexagonal arrangements that I thought were really neat and could be compiled into letters instead of symbols. So as far as ideation goes, I started out by sketching out the letters W, S, A, Q, P, and K. And these letters just kind of have a good amount of range of different curves and shapes that may prove challenging. I ended up really liking just sticking with a full solid hexagon. I thought that made some really interesting shapes and geometric suggestions within their forms. So you can kind of see that in these mock-ups here. I did a few uppercase and lowercase. Some of these, such as the K, were modified for the final solution, and some kept the same. In this particular image, I can see just off the top of my head that the W and the K have both changed in a fairly drastic way. So now on to the final solution. This is what I've come up with using the kind of hexagonal arrangements. I really think this has a lot of potential when used in color. Here it's just presented in black and white for simplicity's sake, but you can kind of see in these shapes how with gradients or color shading, one could kind of make out a cube shape that was similar to that one symbol application that I put in my mood boards. As far as rules go, the rules are pretty simple for this typeface. It was just over, I believe, 5 blocks high was the limit for this typeface, and that kind of kept a uniformity throughout each of the letters. And then no space is allowed between any of the hexagons. So even for things like a lowercase I, you wouldn't have the dot above the stem of the I. They would be touching, and this can be seen with the exclamation point in my letters and symbols slide, and the 2. I gave the 2 kind of a more rounded look to distinguish itself from things like the Z or the S. And same with the 5. I kind of had to go with a diagonal intersection of the hexagons to give a differentiation from the letter S. And then we also have smart quotes down here, using that same principle that is used with the lower part of the 5. And it works for more complex shapes as well, like the ampersand. And that's the end. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this project.